Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. We are back and it is a special one today. Despite the result against Aston Villa, this is our 200th episode. 200 episodes of That's So Craven across 2.5 years. A mini celebration of sorts as we reach a big milestone for the podcast. I'm joined today by the OGs. And we have, firstly, with his arms still raised, I'll throw to him. I was tempted to just leave you with your arms raised for the whole intro, Sammy. But I'll throw to you first, Sammy. How are we going, Sam?
I'm going fantastic. I cannot believe we have done we all haven't done 200. But overall, I cannot believe this is the 200th show. What a thing that has been built here. I am so proud. I am so happy. It feels so weird actually to do it. The OG, it does kind of feel like Avengers Assemble. But like, I like it. Now we're at a point where isn't this an amazing thing where we all just come together, outside of family, just dynamics and stuff like that. Like, super excited to be here. Dad said he was going to bring some energy. Bring it home, Elton.
Hey, how are you? I'm really happy to be here. I'm so pumped for this.
Now it's coming off facetious.
Was that energy? Jeez.
No, truly. Really, really happy to be here. I'm I have very mixed emotions. I feel a bit flat after the game yesterday, but incredibly proud of the little community we've built here. It's very satisfying. It's a bit of a life of its own, which is exactly what you kind of want for your babies. And I'm really, really happy that we have That's So Craven in with all its arms and tendrils.
100%. Look, we'll touch on it right at the end. We'll talk about how great 200 shows have been and all the benefits of the podcast, but yeah, we'll make sure we give that decent space to cover at the end. But before we do that, let's, I guess, talk about what, like you said, we have to bring the tone down fractionally and talk about a bit of a disappointing game. Not in so much that we should be winning games like this, but it was just a bit of a crap game of football, let's be perfectly honest. Neither team looked incredibly good throughout. I think Fulham were sloppy. Villa were potentially a little wasteful at times. I guess the one consideration is, although we were only one place apart in terms of league position, Villa are obviously pushing a lot harder for Champions League football, and we have to, take a bit of a step back. I know it's been a great season, but look at the fact that we are disappointed in losing 1-0 to a team who are possibly going to be playing Champions League football next year, definitely going to be playing European football of some sort next year. Dad, I'll throw to you first. It's a disappointing result because I feel like, it's a bit of an opportunity missed. But when you do take that step back and consider how far this Fulham team have come from 3 years ago or even 5 years ago, you have to, in a way, be, I guess, not so negative about this one and this result.
Oh, well, firstly, since it's our 200th, I want to make a little comment about how interesting it is that you, in real life, you never say, "I'll just throw to you," ever.
Yeah, I always do. That's how I.
No,
I mean,
throw to you.
From you to me, you never say, "Hey, Dad, pass. I'm just going to throw this to you. Just pass me the TV remote."
That's because I always know best. But yeah, continue. Well, interestingly, just like real life, you never actually answer the question as well. So why don't you?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the show. It's 200 episodes, baby.
Yeah, that's right. Part of my my musings on all of this is that there's so much to be grateful for, and right out from the blocks here, I'm just going to say they're a better team than us. Let's never ever forget that. I'm always keen to be optimistic, and I think it's fun to try and think about how we can prosper, how we can break them down, how we can beat them. And I'm never going to say that it's impossible for us to beat a team like Aston Villa, because absolutely is. Or a team such as Aston Villa, we never seem to beat them. We can't beat Unai Emery. Let's be honest. But we're going okay. We have frustrations. We know what they are. We don't even need to go back over them. But if you compare the quality of the squad, we can even be a little bit sort of disappointed at Marquez changes and his lineup choices and things like that. I'm talking about substitutions, but he doesn't have the depth of quality. Villa have got some stars. They really have. And in a game, a fairly flat game, it's not that surprising to me that a match-winning type player pulls something out and becomes the difference. So I'm not devastated by this. It would have been really nice against the run of the Premier League form to win it, but I'm not devastated. Why should we be? Realistically.
Picking up on your point there, and I think you're right, and I'll throw to you after this, Sammy. But when you look at this Villa side, man for man, you're absolutely right. They are a better side than us. The only position I'd say where we potentially are the better side is maybe Anthony Robinson over Ian Maatsen for Villa. But you look at their midfield, Asensio, Tielemans, Morgan Rogers, Boubacar Kamara, even John McGinn. Like, as much as I hate John McGinn, he's a good player, and he's doing good things for Villa. Look up front, compare Jimenez to Ollie Watkins. Across the back, Bassi and Anderson, obviously great defenders, but compare them to Konsa and Pau Torres, both internationals, great. Bernd Leno, one of our best players comfortably, but they've got Martinez, World Cup winning goalkeeper. Like, man for man, they are a seriously good side. So to actually push them and lose 1-0 to them is, in a way, you have to look at it slightly positively. But at the same time, it does feel like this Fulham side struggles to take that next step, and without completely overhauling the squad. Like, if you want to be a very good side, you have to find ways to beat teams like Villa. Sammy, man for man, like I said, Fulham are maybe the lesser side, but do you feel like there was an opportunity to win this game and maybe Fulham could have done a little better in their performance?
Oh, there's always an opportunity. I mean, there's always ways that you can go about it. The beauty of football is it's anybody's game on the day. I thought there was weird substitution changes. I don't understand why we brought Sessegnon off. And then when like Traore came on and ESR came on, literally just deflated everything. I just feel like there was a bit of a. I understand it's a difficult game, and I think that we were getting really, really manhandled all game. Like, there was a very kind of like clear. It felt like a little bit like very, very smart, intelligent, good boys actually just kind of playing men. Like, I feel like they just kind of bossed us around all game, which I'm not that proud to say that, but I did kind of feel that way. Except for Kenny Tete. I think like Kenny Tete was almost borderline overcompensating with just how involved he was actually getting. Just because I think that he felt that he kind of had to a little bit, just because everybody else was getting a little bit stormed. Or at least that's kind of how it felt for me. But again, I think given the circumstances, Tielemans' goal was great. Was it Marlon? Marlon almost scored an extra 2 on us. I actually thought Leno had a pretty good game considering.
Sure.
I think right. I'm not entirely sure if he was the difference, but I think he at least definitely kept it from being 2-3-0 at a couple of really key moments. So I don't know. I just kind of feel a little bit flat. I feel. I don't want to say it feels like a missed opportunity, because I feel that would probably be quite generous to us, because they are a better team. But I mean, we could have won, but we just didn't, and that's, I don't know. That's sometimes that's just how it is, and that's okay.
Yeah. No, look, I 100% agree. Let's look at the lineup, and as you mentioned before, Dad, a couple of little changes there. Saw Harry Wilson get a start. Good to see Sessegnon continue and hold down his spot. very disappointing with Muniz, obviously, potentially out for the rest of the season now. Would you have made any changes to this lineup, or do you think this is what we were sort of expecting for this game?
Well, obviously there's a problem with Andreas as well, and because
Slight
he
injury,
was left out of
apparently.
the. Okay, was that a training ground injury or
Not
a warm up
100%. Just
injury or
Fulham Fan
yeah?
News said that there was a slight injury to Andreas that kept him out for this game.
Yeah, because I doubt whether he would have been left out of the squad. There's almost no chance he would. It would be a question of whether he would have started, and I think, on balance, I think he probably would have started. Um, I I enjoyed seeing Harry Wilson at least try and do a job for us in that role. I think he's incredibly creative and he's very optimistic. He unfortunately he's not quite there at the moment. He's it's a bit early in his comeback, I think, to be playing a really key role in a game. I feel. And I don't think he had a bad game, but he was just fractionally off. He just wasn't quite on it, which is not that surprising because he's played very, very few minutes since he's reemerged. But I thought that was actually encouraging. That the worst fear when someone is out for so long is that really marks a sea change in their career, and they just never come back the same after a major leg injury. But he looks pretty good. He's just not quite back to real match awareness and fitness. Who else? Look, our best midfield pairing was given another outing, but I do have some questions. I mean, they're good. I love Berger. I love Lukic. What he's done, and certainly for the early part of the season, he was really, really great. But if we want to talk about, the sort of European or top 6, top 8, permanent top 8 aspirations, I feel like we need more bite in there. And there are moments where they frustrate me because there's not enough attacking impetus from our middle, our centre and defensive mids. I don't know that I'm surprised by anything else in terms of the starting lineup. I too am disappointed that it seems like Mooney's season is over. I'm not entirely happy about having to rely on Rao for the rest of it because Vinny, he's a name on the team sheet, but I think we know what we've got there.
I want to talk about Berger and Lukic because I think they're a bit of a weird one because I think they're good, but that's kind of the problem. They're good, they're not great. Like I would argue that Polyenia and Reed were great, and maybe because one was carrying the other, or maybe they just complemented each other well. But I can definitively say they were great. But Lukic and Berger, they're just good, and I'm not sure if we need to level up on one of them, or I don't really know what the solution is. But I do feel that next season we probably need to build on that because good isn't good enough, especially in the Prem. I don't know how you guys feel about that though.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's definitely a position that we need to strengthen in. If you look at Berger and Lukic, I'd like to see one of them coming off the bench. I think they would offer a lot. If you look at the fact that we had Harrison Reed coming off the bench, obviously disappointing that he had to come off injured. That does change the game. But if you have Lukic or Berger coming off the bench, I think that all of a sudden gives you some decent squad depth.
Yeah.
And we were sort of missing that. It felt like a game where you wanted maybe Lukic playing in the 6, Andreas in the 8, and then Iwobi in the 10. And that might have given us, or Wilson in the 10, whoever was playing there. That would have maybe given us a bit more dynamism in the middle. I feel like Lukic and Berger together are good, but they can occasionally be a bit stagnant, especially against a team who are set up very well defensively. And I think Villa were very well set up. You look at a couple of times we had some opportunities to push forward, they just completely shut it down. And so I think we do need to sign someone centrally. There's definitely, this is a big conversation for postseason because there's a lot of opportunities for Fulham, a lot of positions that I think we could make some big changes in the centre of the park, out on the wing to find a goal-scoring winger, a new striker, potentially. There's talk of Diop potentially leaving at the end of the season. So looking at a new centre-back, are they a backup or are they a starter? Robinson might be going. Tete and Castagna, we're still not sure which of those is going to be staying or not. There's a lot of business to be done this summer, and I think it feels like we're just being held back at the moment by our squad. Not in a terribly bad way, but it just, if you want to take that next step and be a team that actually qualifies for Europe, at least pushes to qualify for Europe, you need to make quite a lot of changes. And we don't have the depth at the moment that allows us to do that. And like I said, you saw it when you look at our bench, and we just don't have the dynamic players coming off the bench. We were chasing a goal and we didn't have a striker to really bring on. And I think that really hamstrings you.
I think Villa, in the context of this conversation and Fulham's kind of place in the universe at the moment and where we'd like to be travelling to, I think the Villa game is actually a fantastic sort of compare and contrast, because we're only one position in the Premier League. It's very easy to look at the Premier League. Oh, we're 8th, we're 9th, whatever it is. And they're just one place above us. I know they're a few points ahead of us, but only one positional place above us. But they, on any day, they've just got so much more than we have. I'm a full believer with, maybe somewhere between 3 and 5 or 6 changes to the squad improvements. It makes a big difference. Back on the question in the middle, I've seen enough to know that, who am I? But I've seen enough to know that Sasa Lukic, for me, I don't think he's ever really going to do it for me going forward. In the beginning of the season, he showed that he actually can be quite a difficult character in the 6 and very aggressive. He's dropped off a bit. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe there are some problems in just the chemistry between the two of them in terms of what's expected of them and where Lukic's preferred position is. I also think remembering the goal that Berger scored against us, I think there is something about Berger going forward. I think he's got some flair. He's got some creative flair. He likes a cutting pass, and I don't think he's not unshackled, and I don't think he can afford to be that player in the current setup. But one wonders if he was allowed to develop and sort of just be a more creative 8, and Sasa Lukic got a new pairing at the 6, whether that would be a much better sort of mix of defensive and central midfielders for us.
Yeah, I think it was posed on the last podcast. It's definitely been talked about a lot in our Discord. And if you're not a member of the Discord, please do jump in, find the links in all of our bios on socials. But the question of, if you had the opportunity to bring back João Palhinha, would you? And I feel like, and it's mentioned here by Steve Reynolds as well on our live stream on YouTube, we need a João-type player to allow Lukic to press forward more. And I agree. I think we're missing that presence a little deeper of that sort of hustle-bustle player who doesn't let opposition players run through and take free shots on goal, who makes those tackles that really count and never gives up on those. Not to say there's anything wrong with Berger or Lukic, but they're just not that player. João is that player, and it does allow extra freedom for the players in front of him to do what they do best. So I think it's definitely a place where, especially against a low block, you need the centre of the park to be doing enough stuff to break it down. We can't rely on passing it out wide and getting our wingers to cross the ball in, because we've just seen that doesn't work. So we're going to have to try something different next season to break down a low block, because we can't keep doing the same thing. And that is where we're dropping a lot of pretty vital points this season, because if we had got those results against Southampton earlier this season, against Ipswich, I see us picking up an extra 6 to possibly even 10 points if we're a little bit tighter, when you've got players like Polina making those big tackles late in the game and not allowing us to concede all those late goals. We'd be, in the mix for Champions League up alongside Forest at the moment. So there's definitely work to be done. It's just a matter of, can we do that work? Are there players available in the market to go and sign this summer? And, can we convince them of the project, and can we convince Marco to stay and push forward?
Let's talk. I
was going to say, let's actually talk about the goal itself. Tielemans obviously gets on the end of a decent corner. It is put into a dangerous area, but it was analysed at halftime, and we saw a big issue with it. And I don't know if you saw Tielemans speak after the game as well. And Tielemans said, we knew there was going to be space there, so all we had to do was put the ball there and run into it. Unfortunately, going to have to single out Sasa Lukic, who should be marking Tielemans there. It's a problem with zonal marking, though, as the ball gets put into an area where there's no Fulham players, and because the Fulham players are marking their little zone, no one attacks the ball. It's a free header, and Leno's got no chance of stopping that. Sammy, Fulham do concede fairly regularly from corners, it feels. Do you think we could have done better there?
I mean, I'm not really one for tactical nous, so I'm not really sure why I've been directly targeted for this question.
Well, should Fulham do better from corners?
I mean, potentially, yeah. I more concede that I think Tielemans is a very, very, very good player. And I think he can casually say that like he can look in hindsight and be like, oh, we only just had to do this. But I think he actually did pick it very, very, very well. Like completely lost Sasa Lukic. And I see it more because, okay, see it this way. If the rest of the game was kind of more predicated on us really, really messing up defensively, which I don't think we did, I would probably say, yeah, we could probably tighten up a little bit in that kind of key area. But I'm kind of putting it more down to Tielemans being very good at his job. And I have said that quite a few times. I have said that quite a few times. So it could potentially even be a bit of a cop-out answer from me. But I really, really, really rate Tielemans. I've always rated Tielemans as a player. So I can just kind of put it down to us. And also as well, the first 10 minutes was really, really, really bustly. Like, we came out swinging like Madonna in the 80s. But, and it was really, 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 really well contested. And then that goal, and then Sesson, like, losing his goal, it just deflated so much. And then all of a sudden, everything kind of became a lot more defensive, which I think is such a shame, because I feel that it could have been a really, really high octane, fun game. And it just, the life was sucked out of it. But sometimes you have to do that when you're under threat.
Yeah,
I think
we could have done better.
Look, I think the stats don't lie, and it's actually a weakness of ours. I think we actually need to work on this, both in defending corners, how we set up, possibly even more desperately, we need to be better at actually scoring from set pieces. We're really poor. We don't score enough goals. Villa, by contrast, are very, very good. I think they're up there stats-wise with Arsenal in terms of the number of goals they score. And if you look at, just at the mix of where they're likely to get goals from, they've got Ollie Watkins, they've got dangerous wingers, they've got midfielders who can score. They're very, very good defensively at set pieces, and they're really dangerous when they take set pieces. That's a lot of different strings to your bow in terms of how you might get a goal. And we struggle to defend that. I don't think maybe part of the investment over summer needs to be a set piece coach. We may have one, but maybe he's just a part-time guy. I don't know. But I don't want us running single file like Arsenal do. That's just silly. But I think we really need to actually improve that part of our game because we're really weak. We're vulnerable. I never feel that we're going to score a goal from a corner.
Mm.
We so often don't beat the first man. I do rate Pereira's corner taking. I also think that Harry Wilson's a good corner taker, but if he's coming in off the bench, that's not a regular thing. I I I, I think when I see Sasa Lukic take a corner when sometimes he has to, I just think, oh, geez, really? I mean, that probably sounds a bit harsh, but he's not good enough when I compare him to, you know, some of the corner takers in the top half of the table. He's just not there. So, um, yeah, we've got a lot of problems in that area, and we've got to address it. If we again always in the context of if we want to be, doing consistently doing better, we've just got to be doing stuff in around corners and set pieces.
It's funny, we've been calling out for a set piece coach for years and years and just still haven't managed to actually put one in place. And it is a weakness of ours. I can't remember if it's this season now. The season feels like it's been going on forever, but there was a point at which we hadn't scored from over 100 corners, and we also just never looked like scoring as well most of the time. So it is definitely a place where it just feels obvious to pump some cash at it, just put some time and effort in, and score 5 or 6 extra goals from corners. We'll pick up an extra 3 wins across the season. It just seems to make total sense. Sammy?
Well, according to Dad, the set piece coach is on a casual contract, so at least we could do is make him full time and actually get somebody that half decent.
I don't even know if we got one.
I reckon we don't.
Yeah. Apparently, it's overseen by the performance analyst, but that
what does that even mean?
Yeah. Although
that seems village
out,
to me.
Overseen.
I will point out, and it's something that that everyone pretty much in the group chat right at the very start of the game mentioned. Our kickoff routine, which almost came off, was actually very lovely, where we knocked the ball back to, it could have been Cess, who then knocked it straight back to Raul, who played it to Iwobi, who put a ball over the top for Wilson running on, and he almost got there. That's where you need a Dharma on the field to just absolutely belt up and just try and basically take out Martinez. But it is an area where we can improve, and surely we have to sign someone at some point, because I think Liverpool are the only team, or were the first team, to have a throw-in coach as well. So the fact that we don't even have a set-piece coach taking care of free kicks and corners seems baffling in a way. I think we're also hamstrung a little bit by the fact that Pereira is our set-piece taker, and we don't have a left-footed set-piece taker. So you're kind of forced to play the exact same style of corner from, you're actually forced into playing
Wilson, if he's
out-swinging corners from one side and in-swinging corners from the other side. And I think statistically, in-swinging corners are far more successful than out-swinging corners for scoring goals and for chance creation. So we basically can only score from half of our corners because we need them to be on the right side to be able to create a chance. So it's all messy and a bit average. And I think it's, again, a place in which Fulham can do better and should do better. And it doesn't feel like it's a huge change required. It's just a subtle tweak, and I think that's across the board. Sammy mentioned it very briefly, but Sessegnon's disallowed goal, unfortunate but clear handball. Yeah. He doesn't mean to handball it. It falls and brushes his hand on the way down. But to be fair, you see all of the defenders expect him to hit it. It hits his hand, and they're all sort of turned away, and it does make quite a big difference. So it's not surprising that was ruled out. But a really good finish from Sess. In terms of the rest of the game, though, not a huge amount of chances for Fulham. And like you said, Sammy, I think Villa probably should have scored 2 more. Marlon at the end hits the crossbar. He also somehow turns the ball out almost for a bloody throw-in when he should be tapping it in from about 3 yards out. Leno probably does quite well to put him off. But a real lack of opportunities for Fulham. And Dad, Fulham seem to really be missing Muniz, and it's seems to be made a lot more obvious when you can't even bring him off the bench that some games just don't suit Raul Jimenez, and this felt like one of them.
I think there was another chance there, by the way, with the one Leno got a fingernail to from Tielemans that
Yeah, I'm
should
not
have
sure
been
it
a
was
corner.
going in. That was just before
No,
half time.
I couldn't
A good
see. I never saw
opportunity,
a
though.
rear shot. I never saw a rear shot of how close that was, but I think they were sort of banging on more about the fact that it should have been a corner. Um, yeah, look, I heard a number of people saying how good a game they thought Raul had. I kind of beg to differ. I didn't. He frustrated me yesterday. I thought he was spent a lot of time sort of moaning that little missed opportunities, the ball didn't fall his way, and that he sort of stopped
Mm.
trying. I actually think in one of the things I do rate about his game, and that I would say is that he does try hard. It doesn't
Mm.
always come off, and I think he's waning at the moment in terms of his both his pace and just I don't know. He's just the likelihood of that he's going to score is just seems to be on the decline. Um, so I didn't think he had that good a game, and like you say, it's really difficult at the moment because who are we going to bring on? We're going to try
Mm.
someone makeshift up front to shuffle the pack and move Harry Wilson up front, or Dharma up front, or something silly, or we're going to bring Vinicius on and have a completely wild card situation where he might score a worldie or just be really quite underwhelming. So it's look, thank goodness we've only got a couple of games left, and one could argue that of the last 4 games, we realistically didn't expect to or couldn't be expected to pick up points. So you could argue that it probably doesn't matter greatly. Um, Having said that, if you've got your best team and everyone's firing, then you might just pull something off. Um, it's consistent with sort of where we've been all season. It's just now somewhat worse by the fact that Mooney's, who is a pairing, I guess, goals wise, in the number of goals they've scored, has been okay. It's fine, but now that Mooney's, who actually always seemed to be the more exciting prospect, and certainly he scored more goals per minute played than Jimenez. Now that he's out the picture, we look very flaccid up front.
Flaccid.
That's a
Jack, you're on
nice way
mute.
to put it. But yeah, no, I would agree. It feels like I just don't know what's going to happen at the end of the season as well, because Vinny's obviously on his way out the door. Has Jimenez done enough to lock in another contract? I'm not 100% sure, because when you do dig deeper, and I think they talked about it in After Dark as well, you look at his non-penalty goals, I think he's got the same number as Smith Rowe, who we are consistently lambasting as not doing well enough.
Mm.
But to have scored as many goals as your key striker, it's a little bit worrying, especially considering he's on 100k a week from all accounts. It just feels like Jimenez just
125
doesn't.
apparently.
Well, it just feels like Jimenez just doesn't offer enough at the moment. I know he has these little patches of form, and I'd be interested to see kind of a graph of when he scored his goals this season, because I feel like he went on a run where he was scoring very regularly. And then outside of that, there's I can't remember his last goal, to be honest. There's probably a
Yeah,
streak
mainly
of
scores from
10
penalties,
plus
doesn't he?
games. Well, yeah, he scored, I think, 5 penalties or something, but I'm not 100% sure. But it does feel like he's not having the best season. I just want a little more from him, especially when you look at a team like Bournemouth. Sorry, not Bournemouth. Bournemouth as well, with someone like Clivert knocking goals in for fun. I was thinking Brentford, where you got Wisser and Buemo scoring goals for fun. It just feels like we're missing that key piece. I want to say that Muniz has the ability to do that if you just back him through a whole season, but I think if we really do want to take the next step, we probably do need to look at another option up front, because Jimenez, I mean, he's scored 1 goal He's only scored 2 goals since January, one against Newcastle and one in the loss against Brighton. It's not great.
I think the best way of looking at it is very much to compare Fulham and our strike power to these teams around us, right? And when you
two
start
goals in
running,
his last 15 appearances, just quietly for Fulham.
That's
when you start
bad.
when you start comparing it to our peers, there's no world in which you'd keep Muniz. Vinny obviously moves on. There's no
Do
world.
you mean
The problem we've
Jimenez?
got. No, I
said
said Vinny
Muniz.
obviously moves on. I beg your pardon. Raul would go, absolutely would go. I think Mooney's. We can all agree has not performed consistency, hasn't demonstrated that he can do it. But that little month where he scored, he had a fantastic run of form, shows that he can absolutely do it. Can he mature into someone who can do it consistently across the season? Maybe. I think so. I'd back him to do it. And he's young. He deserves a chance to keep learning, and I'd like him to stay at Fulham and do that rather than go somewhere else. But in any world, if you really had the ambition, you would move on and get another, another proven striker. Frankly,
Well,
have to
to
You
compare
have to.
as well, in that period, Jimenez has scored 2 goals in his last 15 appearances, but he's only scored 2 goals since January. In that period, Muniz has only started 3 games, but he scored 5 goals. So
Yeah.
he's a far superior striker at the moment. And it's also his birthday. Shout out Colm for reminding me. I did see that on Twitter just before, but happy birthday, Muniz.
Hope you're fishing with God.
He's scoring goals regularly. Admittedly, he was a little quiet at the start of the season, but the fact is he's actually coming off the bench in the majority of those games, which does make it quite a lot harder. But I would like to see us actually back him next season and go, because I think he's proven himself. The fact that he's scoring so many goals off the bench, the fact that he has the ability to put the ball in the back of the net. He's scored 26 goals now for Fulham across all competitions. He's starting to look like the striker that we kind of can see is in there. He's got 8 goals in the league this season, but he's only managed to start, I'm going to say I think it's 10 games across the whole season. I just feel like we need to back him. And while Jimenez is at the club, I just think Muniz is not going to be backed quite in the way that we need him to for him to be able to take that next step as well.
Again, not original comment, but it's a frustrating mix of the 2, maybe 3 of them. Sorry, Sam. Raul's so poor off the bench, it kind of means he has to start because Rodrigo is good off the bench. But Rodrigo should be given the opportunity far more often to start based on form and based on likelihood per 90 of scoring. But he doesn't get the chance because neither of them are going to get a whole game. And Raul is ordinary off the bench. That's infuriating just because of the mix. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
Speaking about not getting the chance, here. I just wanted to point out that we have to remember that Muniz was brought in as a placeholder. So he was brought in because we panicked and we needed somebody following Mitrovic. So in order to get rid of him, it does kind of require an element of risk. Because I love the idea of backing Muniz for the future. You would have to get somebody equal of either similar quality or ideally probably a little bit better. And realistically, because if you're saying that Muniz is going to be the guy now, you're going to have somebody who's going to be playing second fiddle. So it's more likely to be an aging player or a bit of a young up-and-comer that we're not entirely sure how they're going to do. We're kind of just going to be guessing and hoping and believing. And then that may actually take time to develop in the same way that Muniz take time to develop. I want to see it, but what I'm actually saying is I understand if they still keep Jimenez on for another year because I understand that billionaires don't like risking their money. So I can kind of understand where they're coming from if they kept them, but I would prefer it if they didn't as well.
I think you're not quite sure that Muniz is brought in as a placeholder. I think when you bring in an 18-year-old from Brazil,
Oh, sorry, I meant
it's more.
Jimenez. I meant Jimenez.
Oh, okay, Jimenez. Yeah, sorry. Okay, fair enough. I think you're right. Jimenez was brought in to fill the gap. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And look, I think we signed Muniz just to sort of go off what I was going to say is he's just turned 23. We signed him as an 18-year-old. We were crossing our fingers that he would become the player that the scouts obviously saw he has the potential to be. And I feel like he's starting to reach that point where next season could be like a real breakout season for him. 23 years old. He's got a bunch of goals in the Premier League now. This is his chance to really shine. And I agree. I think having Jimenez there just holds him back a little bit. You either have to bring in a top striker and spend 50 mil and really chance it and hope that they're going to score you 25 goals next season, or you get rid of Jimenez and bring in some better wingers who are going to create constant opportunities for Muniz. And his finishing is so good that I think if you kept giving him chances, he would put them away. We see it with the stats already. His conversion rate is, I think it's the best or the second best in the Premier League per minute played. And even per shot on goal, I think his conversion rate's excellent as well. So it's definitely something that I would like to see is Muniz get an opportunity next season. If that happens or not, I'm not 100% sure. Go on, Sammy.
This season's actually really interesting because I reckon we'll probably look back on it in hindsight, either very fondly or very kind of like poorly, depending on how we do next season. Because considering all the issues that we've actually had, and I don't think we've actually I mean, I could almost argue that last season we actually had a better squad, or it felt like we actually had a better squad. I don't actually think we've had a better squad this season, but we've actually done very, very well considering. So I probably make the argument that we've actually overperformed. So it'd be very, very interesting next season if we bring in like some more signings and then basically mess with the ecosystem in the hope of creating something better. Is that going to reflect well or negatively based on the conversation that we're having right now?
It just feels so hard.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know.
It's the problem with transfers is it's so hard to say. Like you can fully overhaul your team and bring in better players across all positions and it still doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or you can go from season to season with, making one or two very small changes that seem like you're not making any changes to the side, but all of a sudden it's just that key that unlocks the secret sauce effectively. It's going to be a big summer for Fulham no matter what, because I think there's some pressure taken off with the fact that we've been in the Premier League for 3 seasons now, so you can spend a little bit more money. We've obviously, apart from the Smith Rowe transfer, we've been fairly careful, I think, in the market. There seems like there will be some money there to spend, so it's a big summer ahead. Let's look at a few stats from the game, and then we'll have a quick look at the table. Fulham, slightly less possession, 52 to 48%. Both teams having similar number of shots on goal and shots on target. Villa with 10, Fulham 11, 3 shots apiece on target. Similar in terms of passes and corners. The only difference here, fouls. Fulham 17 fouls to Villa's 6. Yeah, it did feel like a game where Fulham were constantly getting pulled up by the ref, most of the time I think quite fairly as well, but the ref did seem to lose control of the game at some point and it did feel a little bit bitey quite often. Quick look at the table. Fulham obviously slipping down to 9th place with the loss. Bournemouth getting points does hurt us. They got a good result against Arsenal. It takes them to 53. Brentford also getting a good result as well. The other week means that they're sitting just behind us. We kind of expected them to drop off by this point of the season, but they have quite an easy run in when you look at it compared to Bournemouth and Brighton and Fulham. We're sitting now 2 points adrift of Bournemouth, who are in 8th. Brighton and Brentford to play today. Brighton level on points with us. Brentford 2 points behind. Palace are 6 points behind us. They might have half a chance of scooting up the table, but realistically, I think it's probably a little too much for them to try and overhaul that with 4 games for them left. we're definitely in a race for 8th. 7th is off the table now. It's a race between these 5 teams at the bottom: Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton, Brentford, Palace. A quick look at upcoming fixtures. Fulham's run-in is kind of up and down. Everton at the Cottage on the 10th of May is a game where Fulham just struggle to beat Everton, especially at home for some reason. But Everton had a poor result. They threw away a 2-goal lead, I think. They were up 2-0 against Ipswich, or 2-1, and managed to walk away with just a draw. Brentford, obviously, away is going to be a tough game, and City to end the season. Realistically, it looks like we're going to have to get at least 6 points, probably 7 points to secure 8th place. Sam, is that too big an ask considering the games we've got to come?
Oh God, I'm about to sneeze. Sorry. Sorry for listeners. Thought I had more time on that. Anyway, look, it's actually not the worst. It's not the worst run-in. I have a weird confidence about that Everton game. I also feel that we get up for Brentford as well, and I feel that we could actually. I feel I'm not sure if we have that one fully in the bag, but I feel that we could do something. I'm looking at that Man City game, and famous last words, knock on wood, all that kind of stuff. But I do feel that it might finally be time, in the same way that we were looking at Liverpool this season and just thinking we've had one too many close games with them to the point where, like, I think we can actually do it. I reckon we might have an upset cooking. I reckon that what's going to happen, I reckon we're going to like put out a team and everyone's going to whinge about the team and everyone's going to say, why did we do this? And then I think we might actually sneak something past Man City because they've got nothing to play for anymore. And I think we would totally want to do it just for us. So I reckon it could be a good run towards the end. So I'm quietly optimistic. Again, I like to lean more on narratives more so than logic. It feels right. It feels right.
I think you mean hope rather than narrative. Dad, I saw a few people mention in the Discord if Fulham, that Fulham will effectively require 3 wins from the last 3 games to lock down that 8th place. But if Fulham do win all 3 games, they probably do deserve European football. Do you think that's fair?
So just let's be honest. I'll give you good odds for Fulham winning all 3 games there, because I don't think it's going to happen, and that's not me being flat and boring. I just think it's very unrealistic. Look, Brentford. It's it's a game we will absolutely get up for, and anything can happen. And even if we had if we had 3 key players injured, any man in a Fulham shirt is going to be up for that game. So it'll be very, very competitive, and I think we can win that game. We should beat Everton easily, and I know what the form stats say and the history says. We should beat them, but I could see us slipping up on that. And Man City is Man City. Sure, we always dream about rolling them. It is at home. Just if I'm here saying Villa are better than us, what do I say when I compare Man City to Fulham? Just in terms of squad quality, kind of ridiculous. I think I'm now completely over the whole we won't be Europe thing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think our owners deserve Europe.
They
don't.
Shots fired on the 200 shot.
They don't deserve to have achieved Europe for the money they spent. It would be a massive overachievement on our investment in players over the last couple of years if we pull off even fringe Europe. Come on,
Well, it's a fair point made, but the It shouldn't be, do our owners deserve Europe? It should be, does Marco deserve Europe for what he's done for the squad? And does the squad deserve Europe for
I
consistently
think it's
picking
no,
up the
I just think
slack
it's
of
too much.
having a thin squad?
It's just too much to ask and expect of the realistically to expect of Mark and the squad. Lots of questions about our substitutions, and I think he possibly did make some mistakes again or poor choices, but he was trying to change the game and trying to win the game. But look at what he had to bring off the bench. It didn't work.
Mm.
And in order to try something to try and change the game, you've got to bring players, you've got to pull a player off who may or may not be even playing badly. So he's taken off one or two players who I think were not playing badly in order to make the change and roll the dice. And he
I think he
simply,
just got the changes wrong. Let's be honest, it didn't work.
but I also think that I think it was a poor move taking Sess off, for example. I don't think he was playing badly, but he had to create a space somewhere.
Yeah.
And Harrison Reed, really unfortunate to get what looks almost certainly to be a season-ending injury and some sort of muscle injury there. I feel really sorry for the guy, but also expecting Harrison Reed to come on and change the game against Aston Villa, that's kind of unrealistic.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I'm just I just think if we're serious about this, if we just want to be mid-table, and the owners have other objectives, then we just need to strap ourselves in and be comfortable about. It's always going to be like this. If the owners are really aligned with the fans and certainly Marco Silva, I mean, utterly no doubt about Silva's ambition. If we're all aligned, we've got to push on, and as we've been talking about forever, refresh the squad with really quite a number of different players coming in.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we're reaching the end of this episode. We do have a handful of questions. I think looks like we've completely lost Sam, so it's just going to be us at the moment. One question that I did see come in just before from Steve Reynolds. Our under-21s have been playing very well this season. I think they finished second in the league and went through to the semi-finals of the European Cup, possibly the semi-finals of the under-21s Cup as well. Why does Silva not play them? They'll be up and off if we don't show confidence in them. And it's a question I posed to After Dark as well early this week. Where's Josh King? We saw Goddo getting some chances early this season, but it just seems to have faded away over the last couple of months, really. Do you think that, I mean, the problem is it's tough now given the position where we're in, where we need to win all these games. Can you see King, Goddo, any of those guys getting an opportunity before the end of the season, or do you think now it's focus on next season?
I do not think we'll see them return. I'm actually truly baffled by King. I thought, over the last couple of seasons we've been talking about our frustrations that the club or Silva is not bringing, or they're just not creating the environment with enough pathways for these young players, good young players, to come through. And then we saw Goddo, and we saw, well, Stansfield was looking like being a thing, and obviously he departed. But certainly we saw King come into the mix, and it was all sort of speculation that they were up to it and able to perform at the highest level until they were actually given an opportunity. And for me, and I'm not the only one by a long shot, I think King really impressed, and I'm certain that he can do it at this level. He looks like a really, really, really good future prospect at Premier League level. No doubt about it in my mind. So the fact that he's not just seems to have not got an opportunity off the bench, but disappeared from the bench. And I know we've got a lot of players around the wing, and they're all performing quite well at the moment. We've got Willian has come back. Great to have him on the bench as an option. You've got Adama, you've got Sess, you've got Iwobi. These are very good players. But I still think, I really still think that King was worthy of persisting with, and I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised that he lost his spot in the squad. Don't understand it.
Me
Yeah,
too.
it is. Good job, Sammy. It is baffling. And I agree. I don't think we're going to see any of those youth players before the end of the season.
Mm.
I'm hoping that Marco has told them that next season is their chance to break into the first team. And I feel like Josh King needs to be part of the first team on a very regular basis next season, because otherwise I think we do lose him. We have seen Marco do it well, though, with players like Cavallio, who actually broke through and played very regularly under Silva. I'm hoping that we don't lose Josh King, because I agree. I think he's
Mhm.
not to overdo it, but it's a bit of a generational talent. I feel
Mm.
like he's going to destined to play for England at some point in his career, as long as he um, you know continues on the
I
same
agree.
trajectory. And I really want to see him get kind of nail down a position. You see it across all the other teams through the league. They all seem to have these young 18-year-olds breaking through into the first team. You look at someone like Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace, who's been
Mm.
brilliant and has now held down that position and just grows in confidence constantly, and now has got an England call up. Um, I feel like Josh King can be that for us, and I really hope we see him get an opportunity before the end of the season. But it's going to be a struggle, because there kind of is too much on the line to risk.
Yeah.
One thing though is seeing Harrison Reed out now injured. That does open up a spot on the bench. So wouldn't be that surprised. And as someone said as well, I think that could be the last time we see Harrison Reed in a Fulham shirt, because I just don't see him having a position in this squad next season, unfortunately.
Hmm.
He's been a great servant for Fulham, but I think we've now moved past our Harrison Reed era, and it's a shame to see him go out in a way like that. But it just feels like it's not going to be. There's just not a space for Harrison Reed anymore at Fulham, which is a shame. But if you want to move forward, unfortunately, some of these players have to be sacrificed.
Mm.
Guys, let's take a moment and just enjoy the fact that this is our 200th episode. Just want to say a big thank you, I guess, to everyone, to you guys, to Skibby, Dave, Mary, Mark, everyone who's contributed. We have so many guests who regularly come on the podcast. We've got a great Discord where we have a group of, I think it's almost 500 now, who are constantly interacting with each other and talking all things Fulham all the time. We're fortunate to be able to share the games in there, to be able to share transfer news from some really good contributors like Fulham Fan News, Cottage Tactico, and just a number of people who, coming out of the woodwork. You look at someone like Mark, for example, who was just a lurker on the Discord and now is a massive part of the podcast. It's great to see so many positive things coming out of this That's So Craven community. It's been 2.5 years now that we've been doing this podcast, and so to get to 200 episodes
Crazy.
is just awesome. Great to see so many people always joining in on our live streams and popping comments. Big shout outs to Steve and Emma Reynolds, to Claire Green, Colin Bolger, Steve. I've already shouted out Steve Reynolds, but a huge number of people who are consistently joining in on our live streams, and we really do appreciate all the support across all of our platforms, because it is something that we, dedicate a lot of time to, a lot of effort to, but it's something that we just enjoy doing as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. Sammy, I'll throw to you, and you can tell us, what you enjoy about the podcast and how cool it is to reach 200 episodes.
Oh, dude. Okay. Like, I mean, I talk about this a lot with like Dad. But like, it's such a cliche, and I'm so sorry that it's such a cliche. But to say I had no idea it was ever going to get to this point, or this thing was going to become what it was. You couldn't have ever told me in my wildest dreams that this would actually become what it's become, and I'm so proud of it. I know. Like, we joke around a lot, and like I play a cantankerous version of myself here, but genuinely, like it's really, really overwhelming. I like anytime I like talk about this, with anybody. I just kind of just sit back a little bit in awe, because the entire time it's always just been like such a joy. It's such a different thing from everything else that I do. I find it so funny that I've been a musician for a very, very long time, and now I am known primarily as an amateur sports journalist, which is something that you could have never told me that was ever going to happen. So much so to the point. Okay, this is a fun story. So I was on the tram last night. I was a little bit drunk, I'm not gonna lie, and I was just standing with a bunch of English dudes. They picked my accent pretty quickly because one of them was from Kent. They were all from Leicester. And they just said, "Oh yeah, Wigan supporters," and I was like, "Diehard Fulham." Got the whole usual Fulham. Why? And I was like, "No, well, not only am I diehard, I had a bit of Dutch courage. I was like, I'm actually part of the third biggest Fulham podcast in the world." And they were like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Have you heard of That's So Craven?" And they exploded at me. They were like, "That's So Craven? That's a huge deal. That's a really, really big thing." Like, and then they gave me cuddles and hugs, and I said that off the cuff, never expecting in a million years I would actually get that reaction. To get that reaction, we started this because we wanted to hang out and talk Fulham and like have something to kind of like remember this, and it's become so much more than that. And everyone who listens, everybody who watches, you guys, I can't thank everybody enough, because it's a really, really beautiful thing that I share with my family and now an extended community. It's beautiful, genuinely, genuinely beautiful.
Lovely, Sammy. And Dad,
thoughts?
Yeah,
no, I couldn't agree more. And obviously, it's a wonderful thing to do with your family and with your kids. And as Sam said, we always used to talk Fulham and decided to press record. So whether or not people would be interested was another thing. But yeah, I'm so happy that we actually seem to have created a bit of a community and doing something that hopefully is genuine. We don't try to be sports journalists because, funnily enough, we're not. Some of our opinions might be off, but I think we bring it pretty real, and we hopefully have some interesting people on the various shows that we do, and by the sounds of it, people enjoy it, and I couldn't be happier. What I'd also say, which is very lovely, is that as Jack mentioned before, some of the, I guess, inner circle of people who you hear regularly on the pod have become really, really lovely friends that we speak to incredibly often. That being daily, many, many times daily, and that's not a surprising thing. There's a great oneness when you support something in common. I'm sure people who sit in the same area of any one of the stands at the cottage know exactly what that means, because they've known people for years and they've got something lovely in common, and it's great friendship and camaraderie. And what has been particularly pleasing is what's happened in the Discord. Really, it's just such a active and nice place where people are overwhelmingly positive. There's just none of the dirge and shit that you have to wade through when you're on X. I know there's a huge amount of content on X, but it's just a grimy place, and I don't love it. So to have an alternative where people are genuinely talking about the club they love and actually putting in quite a lot of effort, and there's some people who appear very, very regularly and asking questions or posing and proposing things or giving their views, which I and I'm sure many people are really, really grateful for. Jack touched on it briefly. There's been a couple of articles just this week, a couple of pieces of analysis, which are extraordinary piece of work by really capable people who are obviously very, very big Fulham fans. And the piece on Mooney's and Rowell, from DJ Welly was superb, and I know Ben, who put another really good article together during the week. Fantastic contributors, people with a lot of things to say, and some really wise heads. And I'm really genuinely happy that we've seeded that and have actually fermented the ground for people to feel comfortable about contributing stuff, because there's nothing better than being part of a community. Absolutely nothing better. And Sam and I were talking about that very warmly just the other day.
We should start it here. It's a much better conversation.
Yeah, well, we are bringing it here. No, it's lovely, and I will say, Jack, a big shout out to you. You do a huge amount of work, and all the other people, and I was going to say guys, if I can call Mary a guy. All the people on the pod hugely appreciate the work that you do. I know you do it because you love it, and I know you do it because you would never allow anyone else to do it. And all those things are fine, but huge amount of appreciation and thanks for all the hours you put in behind the scenes, all the production and content creation. It's certainly appreciated by all of us, and I'm sure greatly appreciated by everyone on the other end of this microphone.
Yeah, I can fully say as well. Me and Dad can talk shit, but this would not be anything without Jack. Like it just wouldn't have got off the ground. We wouldn't have had a schedule. Like we wouldn't have done anything. We'd have just stayed on like what software do we use again? I don't even remember, because Jack fucking figures it out. Like that's the sentiment, you know. So we're just forever wedded to that dynamic. But you know what? It's got us here, and that's beautiful.
We do it all because we love it, and yeah, it's been it's a lot of work over a couple of years, but it's definitely worth it. And look, like you said, you see the fruits of our labors in a thriving Discord, in group WhatsApps where, like you say, we talk literally every single day, and all these awesome episodes of the podcast. So look, I think we can probably wrap it up there. It's been a great episode, and great to celebrate 200 episodes of That's So Craven. Thank you to everyone who's joined in on the live stream, everyone on the Discord, as always. And as always, come on, you Whites.